put herself in a position where this deal is so bad, she's had to concede she couldn't put it before Parliament without suffering a considerable defeat. So even if the deal passed, the DUP wouldn't support it, and we saw last week what that means. The government was found in contempt of Parliament, and we just cannot go forwards with this deal. And if we can't go forwards with her deal, which I decided on the 22nd of October she was not going to change, then I'm afraid the only way to change the policy is to change the Prime Minister, and I really think it's her duty now to go.
There is another way of looking at this, of course, and that is that it's a crisis created as much by people like you as her. I mean, the fact is she was asked to do an amazingly difficult job, find a deal. She did her best. She worked terribly hard. You'd acknowledge that, I'm sure. She worked terribly hard at doing that. She produced a deal and then assorted, let me use the word malcontents, those people who were unhappy with the deal, started to sabotage it.
Well, John, of course the Prime Minister's worked extremely hard, and she's a lady of many great virtues. A person doesn't become the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom without many great qualities. But as I warned since I resigned in July, it was always clear that her idea of Brexit was not going to get through the Conservative Party. Even if the backstop was removed, the Brexit she's aiming for is built on a single customs territory. That is a customs union, and a customs union was ruled out in our manifesto.
Right.
So we would be rule takers even if the Prime Minister got this through and got everything she wants. And
if not her who, then? If not her who? You have the vote of confidence in her as she fails it. Who then?
At this point, anyone who was competent at that level and who believed in Brexit...
Oh, you can't just say anyone.
I'm going to go let me finish.
Go on.
So it's who was competent at that level and believed in leaving the EU would be an improvement. Now, I think that there are 4 people who have resigned from the government, from the cabinet. That's Esther McVey, Dominic Raab, David Davis and Boris Johnson. And I think the 4 of them need to work out between them which one of them is going to be our candidate to unite the country, unite the party and take us out of the EU successfully.
And you really think, in practical terms, it would be possible, with the time left, a matter of weeks, that a new Prime Minister... when is the earliest that Prime Minister could be elected? I mean, could be chosen by the party. The new leader could be chosen by the party. What do you think? How long would it take, roughly?
Well, if the second candidate withdrew after the parliamentary process, then it could be done in 2 weeks. But if it went to the members in the country, which I think the party board might demand, then it might take, I think, another 6 weeks beyond that. And this is time we can ill afford, of course.
Well, but that is precisely the point, isn't it? There is no time. There is literally no time left to reach any sort of agreement, even if that Prime Minister were able to work the miracles that Theresa May has failed to work. So that would mean ending leaving the European Union without a deal, wouldn't it? That's it.
I don't think that is the case, and the reason that I don't is that there have been a number of additional conversations going on. I think it's well known that Ian Duncan Smith, Owen Paterson and a number of others, Lord Trimble, went to see, in fact it was, I beg your pardon, it was Peter Lilly, went to see Michel Barnier to discuss what else could be done. The content of that meeting has been kept private, but I've got a great deal of confidence that it is possible to substitute for the backstop a permanent solution in the form of a standalone trade facilitation treaty, which would deliver an invisible permanent border which was compliant with all the necessary rules.
That's if it would work, but of course it wouldn't work. There is no such thing.
Well, I'm afraid...
I know you're going to tell me Switzerland, but
No, John. People brush this away without paying any attention. I'm telling you, the treaty's been drafted. Now, the treaty has been drafted. It can be done. We've had experts, including the European customs expert Hans Mason has worked on it. You know, these are people of goodwill who simply want to ensure that there's no new infrastructure. I mean, nobody's going to install infrastructure, of course, John, not Ireland, not the UK and not the EU. So once you admit that even in a no-deal scenario there will be no new infrastructure, then the question becomes, how will you make that work? And the answer is this treaty.
So you're seriously asking us to believe that Michel Barnier and his colleagues, presumably in the European Union, have this possible solution, this straightforward, I was going to use the word simple, but you wouldn't accept that, I suspect, but absolutely straightforward solution to solve the crisis of Britain in Europe, that it could be done, and yet, for some perverse reason that isn't entirely clear, Theresa May has not been able to see that.
Well, look, the
Others
situation is...
Ian Duncan Smith, etc. They can all see it. Theresa May is incapable of seeing it.
Well, the situation actually is fairly straightforward and a matter of record to see. Back in March, the European Union offered us a free trade agreement-based deal, no tariffs, all sectors, no quantitative restrictions, and so on, security cooperation, a range of other features. Now, that deal needed to be delivered for the whole UK. It's the only deal that flows logically from our red lines, the Prime Minister, indeed's red lines. So that was the right deal, and that needed to be for the entire of the United Kingdom. Having a standalone trade facilitation treaty for the Irish border could deliver it. But the problem is the Prime Minister does not want to ask for an advanced free trade agreement. She wants to have something like the EEA plus something like the Customs Union. As I said on the record, I lived that experience of fighting that battle inside government, as did David Davis. As you can see from David Davis resigning and later Dom Raab, there has been a pattern of working around DExEU ministers to avoid going for a free trade agreement-based Brexit, and instead to have a high alignment disaster, which is now why the PM's got to go.
And a final quick thought, why, if there is this strength of feeling, and there are so many people who want her to go, why hasn't the chairman of the 1922 committee called an election? Because he doesn't have the 48 signatures yet, does he?
Well, of course, we've all taken a bit of a bruising on this, and it is a grave decision for every colleague to make. But what I would say to my colleagues is you now face the certainty of failure with Theresa May. You must be brave and make the right decision to change Prime Minister and change Prime Minister now. But you acknowledge
that he doesn't have the signatures yet?
Well, Sir Graham is a man of great integrity, and I feel sure if he had the letters, he would announce it.
Yeah, indeed. Steve Baker, thank you very much.